Hello and welcome back to the SecurityMetrics podcast. I'm Jen Stone. I'm a principal security analyst here at SecurityMetrics, and today I am very excited to talk to our guest. Her name is Vandana Verma, and she's going to talk to us about the value of the security researcher in cybersecurity, specifically how OWASP helps application security and how to mitigate the kinds of vulnerabilities that security researchers might find in an application. She's also going to talk to us about cybersecurity as a good job for women around the world and some of her efforts in that area. Now, Vandana has so many great things going on that I'm going to read to you her bio, or I will not remember all of this. But I want you to know all of the things that she has going on there so that people know you can be in cybersecurity. Look, see what this woman has done. So she's a security solutions architect at IBM India Software Labs, vice chairman of the OWASP Global Board of Directors. That's pretty huge. She leads diversity initiatives like InfosecGirls and Women, and she's the founder of Infosec Kids. I want to find out more about that later. Review board member for Black Hat Asia, Grace Hopper India, OWASP AppSec USA. She's an organizer of B-Sides Delhi. So I got to know her because she puts out a lot of information, and it's great. She's a prominent keynote speaker, trainer, podcast guest, webinar presenter. She's the multiple award winner of some very prestigious awards: the Cybersecurity Woman of the Year Award 2020 by CyberSec Awards, Application Security Influencer 2020 by WhiteSource, Global Cybersecurity Influencer among IFSEC Global's, it's probably IFSEC, huh? Global's top influencers in security and fire category for 2019, and Cybersecurity Women of the Year Award by Women's Cyberjitsu Society in the category Secure Coder. She's listed as one of the top women leaders in this field of technology and cybersecurity in India by InstaSafe, no surprise, and she's trained over 10,000 plus diverse candidates in cybersecurity. Good grief, do you sleep? Vandana, welcome. Thank you for coming on this show and talking to me. I'm so excited to meet you.
Thank you so much, Jen, for inviting me to the podcast. And I'm really, really glad to be part of it. It was a pleasure to connect with you and to come on the show with you.
Absolutely. So did I miss anything in the intro? You're still with IBM doing solutions architecting?
Yes, that's my bread and butter, mac and cheese.
Great.
Yeah.
That's important to have that baseline of where do we start from. So one of the reasons I was drawn to you is that I wanted to talk to someone about what a security researcher is. I read a fairly spicy little argument online between a couple people about being called a hacker, being called a cybersecurity. What do these terms mean? Are they good? Are they bad? And I thought we should get someone to come and talk to us who understands security research, and that's why I reached out to you. So can you tell us a little bit about what a security researcher does and how if it differs from being a hacker or anything like that?
I would say that hacker is also now considered as a positive term. Like whenever earlier days we used to hear about this word hacker, it always brings the antenna on, then this is a bad person, this is the person who might be stealing our data. But now anyone who's working in any organization and part of the security team trying to save the organizations, I would say they are hackers. And when it comes to the security researchers, they also align on the same lines. Like I do the pen testing for my organization. I also try and research for the new vulnerabilities that might be there and try and let the teams know that this is a vulnerability which we need to fix. So we try and do the research around it. And now there's something called cyber threat intelligence, which is again picking up big time. So gathering the threats and researches from different sources and sharing it with a wider team so that they also know that you have found something and now we have to fix it. So it's like intertwined and still not intertwined. And I would say that they are the same things, but not the same things. So everyone has their own perspective about it.
Sure. And it seems like the word hacker is almost like a hot button for some people, whether they find it positive or negative. And in the community, hanging on to that idea of do we call ourselves hackers? Do we vilify hackers? And I think there's a lot to the word. It basically is what you were saying. Can you do the research and find vulnerabilities in a system, in an application, and that can be the term hacker. We don't have to make it something bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And if somebody calls me a women hacker, I would love that. And I'm wearing a T-shirt which says Hacker Womania, which is like a hacker and Womania in Hindi. So it's like, this is something which I love, and I don't shy away in being called as a hacker woman.
That's wonderful. Oh, so I appreciate you helping to clarify that for people. Also, hacker, it's a quicker word to say, and it's more fun than I am a security researcher. So security researcher is a great word, but it sounds very uptight.
Yeah, totally. Yes, absolutely.
So one way that malicious actors will attack an organization is through its website. So a lot of the work that I do is around securing, well, one of the things is around securing for PCI, cardholder data, right? So because people can take cardholder data and do so many bad things with it, spending other people's money. And so when we look at the role of the security researcher in protecting an e-commerce website, for example, how do you go about looking at an e-commerce website for vulnerabilities?
So when we talk about e-commerce website, they're unique because they have so many things which are running around it, and especially we have a lot of consumers, and that's when like application security plays a role, and consumer identity and access management plays a role. Like people have started talking about consumer identity and access management lately a lot, that hackers might want to take your data through the registration forms, or might be through the login forms. Now that has become easy. You don't have to even register yourself while you are surfing something and asking for something. You get registered. You just provide your email address, first name, last names, and you get registered. And then comes a point wherein can I use my social login, like your Gmail login, Facebook login, or LinkedIn login? So people have started giving that option as well. So it's like they are trying to simplify the identities, and similarly they are trying to provide the security as well. And another aspect is bots. Like there are automated bots that actually keep trying things on that. So there are threat protections which are there to avoid those bots as well, be it banking area, be it any other sector where you avoid digital frauds. And that's when digital security comes into picture, that how do you secure step by step and avoid those areas. And there was one term which recently came, like it's not so recent, like just a year and a half ago I was introduced to it, called adaptive access, where you build a context about a user, like from where they're coming, what they're doing. And that's also become a very important area in application security, that you understand the user, how they're using the application, which device they're using, where they might be coming from, whether it's a malicious location or it might be a rooted or a jailbroken device, or if a user has a different behavior. Like I check my Amazon every other day. Like if I'm not doing anything, I just go ahead and start checking things. But if suddenly I start checking 10 times a day, that seems to be very spooky. Or I start checking my bank account every half an hour, every 10 minutes or half an hour. So that seems to be spooky. So that's when that context aware takes a front seat and plays a role. And application security, no doubt, that cannot take a back seat, because that's the front area where malicious attackers get into the picture, and then they take over the application and all the data that is there.
So it's not just preventing people from getting into the application who shouldn't, but it's also what is the behavior of accepted people within the application to prevent potential malicious activity from happening.
Absolutely, yeah. People have been talking about web applications firewalls as well, but then I think consumer behavior is equally important. When you have, when we say that users' data is important to organization, but for organization also, keeping the user, like making sure that the user is a trusted user, is also very important.
So access management for consumers is not something that we really have put in place up until now. It's been more, somebody wants to come along and buy something, great, go ahead and buy it. They don't, check out as a guest. We don't care who you are, where you come from. But that's starting to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually picking up big time. And I've been working with a lot of e-commerce vendors wherein that's part of my day job, wherein I have to interact with different partners and clients. And I realized that this is one pain area everywhere, be it retail industry, be it transportation, or be it telecommunication, or insurance sector. Like that's a huge area which is concerning for any user. Like application security, all those top 10 things or the risks that people talk about, that is there. They are trying to fix it. But then other area is that understanding the consumer's behavior. So how they might be portraying as a malicious people to us.
Right. So it seems like some machine learning activity is going to be essential to understanding that, because you can be sitting in front of logs and alerting, some monitoring things all day long, but not be able to pick up on it because there's so much information there. So it seems like we need to leverage machine learning, some AI, some of that technology in order to understand that.
Yeah, true. I think to build a holistic system, even as a security person, I can say that cybersecurity is not enough. We need machine learning and AI to complement it so that we can detect the threats early. Also, we can help the people and organizations to be secure,
right,
so that they can figure out, oh, there's something that is happening in our environment. We have to pick up. Even that's how 0 days come into picture, right? That the people get into the network and come up, oh, this has come up. But if the organization themselves feel that there's something which is happening, like SolarWinds happened recently, it's just recent, where FireEye picked up something that, yes, this is something happening with SolarWinds. Then at the same time, they reported it to SolarWinds, and Microsoft also came up and said that we also saw something. And then they came together and came up with the whole scenario, that what could have gone wrong, where it went wrong, and how it's impacting the whole world. Like SolarWinds became the talk of the town.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah, true.
So being able to pick up on some of that anomalous behavior, that really is the leading indicator for knowing that there is some type of malicious activity going on. Because like with 0 days, like you said, we can't identify a 0 day by a signature or by a definition. We can only identify it by anomalous behavior or fraudulent behavior.
True, absolutely. I think it's better to complement the AI and ML technologies, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like we don't have to create our own system or own algorithms or our own predictive analysis. There are technologies which are available. We can take help from it, and we can just kickstart our business from there. And that will be really helpful, because I think this is one area which really interests me, that if I could go back and learn more about all those different algorithms or different analysis models which are there, I would love to do something around AI and cybersecurity, for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like a really interesting topic. So when I go and talk to different companies about and sit down with the developers and talk about application security, so one of the questions I ask is what is your security framework? How does security play into your development model? And they always mention OWASP. Can you tell us a little bit about OWASP?
Sure. So OWASP is Open Web Application Security Project. I would say when it comes to application security, it's one of the biggest community around the world. We have different chapters and different projects which are there, which are catering to the whole world and the application security framework. And not just application security now, there is a Kubernetes, there is Docker, or container, to be precise, container security, then a serverless security, and so many other things which have taken a front seat. But when it comes to application security or DevSecOps or DevOps, when developers comes into picture, OWASP top 10 plays a role. But let me tell you, OWASP top 10 is not just the thing that organizations should look at. Even on the board, I can say that upfront that it's just top 10 list, but it has over 400 CVEs. It's just that we need to take a look at it step by step, minutely. But for some people, it becomes just a checklist. And when it comes to developers, I have worked very closely with them, so I can relate to what actually they can say, okay, this is OWASP top 10. But when we are connecting with them, we have to make sure we educate them about how we can embed security early and not just top 10, because security is much more wider space than just OWASP top 10. So when they are doing the development, we can build the mindset, because what they have been trained to do the coding right. And now we are forcing them to do the security. So sometimes it can be too much, and they just remember, okay, these are the things, this is the checklist that I need to do, and I'll be good.
Right.
And actually, they will be just going with that. And I don't blame them for that. It's just becomes our responsibility as a security person, as a security team, or as a leadership team, that, okay, security is not just OWASP top 10. It's about doing the things right, doing the security right from the design.
Yes.
Like security by design, it has to be there from the requirements gathering till the development, till the even we need to talk about threat modeling as well. And we don't have to just teach them, we have to build security champions so that they understand, okay, now this thing has come up. So I'll give you I'll tell you something which happened with me little long back, wherein I was invited for Scrum, but then Scrum happened early because they were so fed up with the security teams. So I think it took me good 6 months to build that relationship with them. And I think after 6 months, I felt that they were better security people than me.
Oh, wow.
Like they were
Nice.
doing the security better than me. So that was really,
That's a big success.
that was really a nice thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well when I go into an organization. If they are a group of developers who are maybe a little bit fresh out of school, just just beginning to learn, it's all they can do to, how do I make this thing work? And then you say, all right, is it secure? And they get a little bit of a deer in the headlights look. So I'll say, ask them the very specific questions that the PCI standard asks. How do you deal with parameterized queries? How do you deal with escaping? How do you deal with do you use verbose messaging in errors? All of the details that are listed in the standard, but that isn't necessarily helpful to them because they don't know, and in some cases they have chosen a framework that takes care of a lot of the coding security issues for them, which is great. And so then you talk about so digging into, well, how do you deal with this? And helping them understand that there is a deeper thing, but then going beyond, like you said, going beyond just the coding to, if you were to be the bad guy, or if you were to do like a game against your own systems, a game against your own application, whereby you could use less privileged account to get to what you need, how would you do it? And so then they start thinking in a way that is more enjoyable and fun for them. And the advantage is, if they figure out that and can close off those avenues, then when a third-party application penetration tester goes in, and if you have not tested your own systems the way a penetration tester will test your systems, then it can be just devastating for the team, because they have to put all sorts of sprints on hold, they have to put possibly releases on hold, in order to fix the things that they didn't even know existed because they weren't trained in how to think that way. So it sounds like that's the approach that you take, is to give them the training so that they can then think about these things as they're developing the application. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you a funny story where if one of the project was given to me wherein I was testing for cross-site scripting, and we found cross-site scripting, and we actually stopped the release because from cross-site scripting, we had few other bugs which were actually putting us at question that why these bugs are coming. So the parameter that I gave, like the script tag that I gave, had hacked by Vandy. Like that's like generally I gave. They fixed that query. They came up and said that now it's not working and it will not work. So we started testing out with few other things and it worked. And they were like, how it worked. Then we had to tell them that this is how it worked, and we just need to tweak around the script. But you actually nailed the point that gamifying security can be really, really interesting. Like the kids, when we want to teach them something, it's all gamifying. And now we are all online, the schooling is online. So gamifying is the way to go. And similarly, that actually applies to anyone, like all
Right.
human. So I do want to recommend one project which is called Security Knowledge Framework, which is like mix of many other projects which can help developers, which can help security team, which can help many other people like operations people. So you can actually experience the labs, which is integrated with other vulnerable web applications. You have a code which will be vulnerable code, and developers can tweak around and see whether it's fixed or not, like the actual real life
So very
real
hands-on
scenarios.
playing with it. That is a
True.
and so we'll link to that and in our show notes as well, because that sounds like a really good thing for people to get connected with. And it sounds like the entire OWASP, the website, the organization, there are a lot of resources there for people to learn more about security. So we will link to that. But I wanted to move on to our next topic, which is you are heavily involved in bringing women into cybersecurity. Can you tell me about why this is important to you and what it is that you're involved in, how you do this?
When it comes to diversity, I think it all started with when you see that you are only the lone runner in a game.
Uh-huh.
Like you don't feel like sometimes running, or you don't feel that yes, this is the place where you belong. So it all started with that, and then realized that why not have a good community around India.
Mm-hmm.
Especially I'm from India, so why not have it
Sure.
around India? And if I am feeling the same, there would be other people who might be feeling the same.
Right.
So it started with Bangalore, it moved to Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, and many other places, like the whole country. Now we have chapters around India, Italy. We are coming up with London, and there are many places in USA where we can connect and bring more awareness. And then at the same time, we thought, why not do an education in a form of a training? So we started off with trainings, we started off with workshops at different conferences, at different colleges. Earlier, we were trying to reach the colleges,
Uh-huh.
conferences, but now they are coming and asking us that, can
Nice.
you please do a workshop? Can you do a session? Can you do this for us? I think that's really a nice feeling when you go back and train the generation which is going to be the next for you, or who will be the next leaders.
Sure. That is excellent. I did notice that. So before we started the podcast, we talked briefly, and I traveled to India. Normally traveler, because I have a couple of customers in that area, and I had noticed that as well in speaking with other IT teams. You know, we see that in the U.S. that the fewer women tend to be in cybersecurity right now, but that is improving. But it was definitely obvious over in India the lack, and so it's really interesting and exciting to see the strides that you're making for bringing more women into the cybersecurity realm and advancing that as something that is comfortable, because people have that community to rely on, to learn from, and to have mentors and role models in that area. Sometimes it's hard to pursue a career in something where you don't see someone similar to you in that career. So I think there's a lot of value in what you're doing there. But you mentioned just a minute ago about the next generation. So Infosec Kids seems like efforts made in that direction. Tell us about that a little bit.
Sure. Now, when we were coming up with InfosecGirls, we started with women, we started involving students in it. But then there were a lot of parents which were coming and speaking that we have small children, and I have my own small kid. So can we have something for them? Like when we were growing up, we did not have a phone in our hands or a tab in our hands. And now when they know how to operate a YouTube, when they know how to use a phone, use a tablet, or even laptop. Like my he's 5 year old, and now he knows how to operate a phone and unlock it.
Sure.
And the fun fact, he can do shoulder surfing and remember my password. Like
Oh, no.
I change it every 15 days. So that's very sneaky.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
He's a very bright child. So what do you do with, so is it mostly games for the kids?
Actually, games for the kids, we have gamified it, and also sessions for the parents. So we have partners with, we partner with a lot of police officers, like they are IPS officers, Indian Police Service officers. They are working towards women and child safety. So we've done sessions with them because they've written so many books around it, and they are solving the cases in the real time. So they can give parents a view that yes, this can happen to their child as well. So I remember bringing in. Sanjay Kumar, he's an IPS officer from Kerala, India, and he was talking about not my child syndrome. Now we say that, okay, this has happened to this child, it will not happen to our child, but you never know when this can happen to your child as well. And then he also talks a lot of around stories. So we thought, why not have something which can be done around stories, and why not have parents do something for us? So there are a lot of parents who are giving some mini talks, like small things which they feel that they are experiencing, and similarly child which they are doing. So we're trying to integrate that, but we're going on a very slow pace. We want to make sure that we do the right thing with a very slow pace.
Excellent. Well, it seems like things are moving along beautifully for you. You've got so many things going on. Is there anything else that you have coming up that you'd like to tell us about? Anything, place you're speaking or teaching?
I think right now, today, I have a speaking engagement at RSA webinar for International Women's Day.
Great.
That's one thing which is there, and I am quite excited about it, because this is my first engagement with RSA conference where I wanted to speak for long. And we do have a lot of new chapters coming up for InfosecGirls, and we do have free trainings. I think if you want to take help from that, it will be very helpful for us, and we would feel that yes, that some people are getting benefited out of it. And if you can contribute by being an ally for InfosecGirls, I think that's the most beautiful thing.
Well, we will definitely link to that as well. I'll reach out and get all of the links that we want to include in the notes. Make sure that everybody knows what you have going on so they can be part of it and support it. And I love the idea of using stories to help parents and children. Sometimes I know for myself, I did not have a computer until I was in high school, because they didn't exist, right? Home computers weren't a thing, and so a lot of times I meet with peers or even the generation older. They're very uncomfortable with. They don't know how to help their children. They don't know how to help their grandchildren, because this was not a challenge that they faced themselves. And yet now it's something that we all face. Understanding how do we protect our children's safety online, and it's not something that is so far and so difficult that everyone can't learn it. And so the use of stories, I think, is a great way to approach that. I love hearing about that. Well, it has been absolutely fantastic talking to you today. Thank you again. I'm so happy to have met you. I hope one day to meet you in person.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure to speak with you. And we had really good discussion around so many things. And if you need any further information, do feel free to reach me anytime.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us again at the SecurityMetrics podcast. If you liked what you saw here, please do subscribe. See you next time. Thanks for watching. To watch more episodes of SecurityMetrics podcast, click on the box on the left. If you prefer to listen to this podcast, it's available on all your favorite podcast platforms. See you on the slopes.